Welcome back, everyone, to Nation of Glory. It's always good to have you here because today, we're diving into the life story of a man whose voice sounds like the wind itself. A man who didn't just play country music, he redefined it. A man who became the beating heart of American outlaw country, the legendary Willie Nelson. So sit back, relax, and let me take you on a journey through dusty highways, smoky bars, heartbreaks, revolutions, and redemption. This is the story of the cowboy poet, the outlaw who refused to be tamed. Willie Nelson was born on April 29, 1933, in a tiny town called Abbott, Texas. He came into a world still trembling from the Great Depression, a time when hope was scarce and music was one of the few things that could make people forget their hunger for a while. His parents left when he was young, and he was raised by his grandparents, people of strong faith, who taught him that music could heal what words could not. His grandfather gave him his first guitar when he was just 6 years old. Imagine that, a little boy, strumming strings that were too big for his small fingers, trying to find a voice in the rhythm of old gospel songs. Every Sunday morning, young Willie would sit inside the tiny church in Abbott, and when the choir began to sing, his heart would light up. It wasn't just about religion, it was about connection. That feeling of belonging when everyone's voice came together in one harmony. He learned early that music wasn't about fame, it was about soul. As Willie grew older, he began to write songs. And not just any songs, songs that spoke like confessions, songs that painted pictures of the lonely, the tired, and the dreamers who never gave up. He joined the high school band, played a few gigs around town, and earned his first dollars performing in honky-tonks filled with cigarette smoke and the smell of cheap whiskey. But even then, there was something about him, a quiet fire. His voice wasn't smooth like the polished Nashville singers. It was rough, raw, real. And maybe that's why people remembered him. Because his voice told the truth. After serving in the Air Force for a short time, Willie returned to Texas and worked every job he could find, from selling vacuum cleaners door to door to being a radio DJ. But at night, he kept writing songs. By the 1950s, he packed his dreams and a beat-up guitar and drove to Nashville, Tennessee, the heart of country music. He believed that if he could just get someone to listen, everything would change. But Nashville wasn't kind to outsiders. The industry was ruled by the Nashville sound, clean, conservative, and controlled. Willie's music was too raw, too honest. His songs didn't fit in the mold. They said, "It's too personal, Willie. Too strange. Too real." But he didn't stop. Instead, he started selling his songs to other artists. And soon, Nashville had to listen. In 1961, Patsy Cline recorded Willie's song Crazy. It became one of the biggest hits in country history. Think about that, a young man from a broken home, sitting with a guitar, writing words that would make millions cry. He also wrote Hello Walls for Fair and Young, Nightlife, Funny How Time Slips Away, and more. The money started to come in. The respect followed. But something still didn't sit right with Willie. Because even though his songs were topping charts, his voice wasn't being heard. Producers told him how to dress, how to sing, how to smile. They wanted the product, not the man. And Willie Nelson was never made to be a product. So one day in the early 1970s, he packed up again, this time heading home to Texas. He bought a piece of land near Austin, grew out his hair, threw away the fancy suits, and decided to make music his way. And what happened next changed country music forever. In Austin, Willie found a community of musicians who didn't care about labels. They mixed country with rock, blues, and folk. They were rebels, and they loved freedom as much as they loved their guitars. Together, they built what became known as outlaw country, a movement that said, "We don't need permission to be real." And at the heart of it all was Willie Nelson. With his band of fellow outlaws, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, and Johnny Cash, Willie helped shape a new sound. Albums like Shotgun Willie, Red-Headed Stranger, and Stardust made him an icon. Red-Headed Stranger, released in 1975, was a turning point. The record company didn't believe in it. They said it was too simple, too stripped down. But Willie said, "It's supposed to be simple." And when it hit the shelves, it became a masterpiece. It told the story of a preacher who killed his unfaithful wife and her lover, a dark, poetic tale told through haunting melodies. The album went multi-platinum, and Willie Nelson became not just a country star, but a storyteller of the soul. But behind the fame, Willie's life wasn't all peace and glory. He faced heartbreaks, divorces, and struggles with the urge. At one point, the government seized almost everything he owned: his homes, his recording equipment, even his cherished guitars. Most people would have broken down. But not Willie. He laughed. He joked that the Urs should release his next album to pay off his debt, and they actually did. It was called the Urs Tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories. Every dollar from sales went toward his debt. And slowly, song by song, he rebuilt his life. Because you see, Willie Nelson never saw failure as the end. He saw it as another verse in his song. Through the decades, his music evolved, but his message stayed the same: freedom, love, and unity. He sang about the struggles of ordinary people: the farmer, the worker, the wanderer. He founded Farm Aid with Neil Young and John Mellencamp in 1985, a concert series to raise money for struggling American farmers. He stood up for marijuana legalization when it was still taboo. He spoke out for peace when it wasn't popular to do so. And through it all, he kept that humble smile, that twinkle in his eye, that easy laugh that made people feel like everything would be okay. Willie Nelson became more than a musician, he became a symbol of freedom. His braids, his bandana, his old guitar named Trigger, they're not just his look, they're the marks of a man who refused to bow to anyone's rules. And maybe that's why people love him so much. Because in a world that keeps trying to tell us who to be, Willie reminds us that it's okay to just be ourselves. His voice may not be perfect by the standards of the industry, but it's authentic. It's the kind of voice that makes you feel something deep in your bones. When he sings On the Road Again, you can almost see the open highways, the sun setting behind an endless horizon, and the feeling of freedom running through your veins. When he sings Always on My Mind, it's not just a love song, it's a confession. It's every moment you wished you had done more, loved harder, stayed longer. That's Willie Nelson's magic. He turns the ordinary into the eternal. Even in his later years, Willie never stopped touring. Imagine that, in his 80s, still traveling from town to town, performing night after night. Most artists retire long before that. But Willie said once, "I'll quit when I quit breathing." Because for him, music isn't a job, it's oxygen. It's what keeps his spirit alive. Behind the scenes, Willie is known for his kindness. He helps young artists without asking for anything in return. He tells jokes, plays poker, and writes songs as easily as breathing. He's written more than 2,500 songs and recorded over 70 studio albums. He's appeared in movies, TV shows, and even commercials, but through it all, he's remained the same man who once sang in a small-town church in Texas. Fame never changed him, it only made him more grateful. And that's perhaps the greatest lesson Willie Nelson teaches us. That life is not about being perfect, it's about being true. You can lose everything and still find peace. You can walk away from the crowd and still find your people. You can grow old and still stay young at heart. Because age doesn't stop a dreamer. And the fire inside a true artist never fades, it just burns quieter, deeper. When Willie steps on stage today, guitar in hand, fans don't just see a singer, they see history. They see a man who's lived through wars, revolutions, heartbreaks, and triumphs, and still stands with a smile, ready to sing one more song. He's living proof that authenticity outlasts trends. That a heart full of love can outshine a world full of noise. And maybe that's why, when the lights go down and that familiar voice begins, people still stop what they're doing. Because when Willie Nelson sings, time itself seems to slow down. It's as if the universe says, listen, this is what it means to be human. So, as we look back at Willie Nelson's incredible journey from the little boy in Abbott, Texas, to the legendary outlaw who changed American music forever, we're reminded of something simple yet powerful. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, there's always a song waiting inside you. A story worth telling. A dream worth chasing. Willie didn't wait for permission. He made his own road and invited the world to travel with him. And that's what makes his story timeless. So, to all the dreamers out there listening right now, remember Willie's lesson. Be yourself, even when the world says not to. Speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. And never stop singing your song. Because one day, that song might inspire someone else to find theirs. Thank you, friends, for watching this journey here on Nation of Glory. If you felt even a spark of inspiration from Willie Nelson's story, give this video a like, share it with someone who loves real music, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next story of greatness, courage, and heart. Until next time, keep believing, keep dreaming, and keep your spirit free just like Willie. Thank you for watching, and God bless.